V-Rising's first major content update, The Secrets of Gloomrot, is here, and with it comes a shocking amount of new features and changes. My name is Codiak, this is Legacy Gaming, and today we're giving you a first look at a brand new school of magic, Storm. Secrets of Gloomrot has given the developers at Stunlock Studios a rare opportunity to not only expand their base game, but also rework it as well. After a year of development, much of the V-Rising we once knew is gone, and many of the systems have undergone a significant transformation. Magic, more than any other system in the game, was impacted by this update, and whether it's a new spell, a tweak to an existing one, or the game's brand new jewel system, there's a lot to talk about. Before we get to the spells, fair warning, we will be talking briefly about some of the new V-Blood bosses in the game. We won't be showing you entire fights, but their names and locations will be used so everyone can use this video as a guide in the future. Today, I wanted to share a first look at the brand new Storm School of Magic, but before we do that, we need to start by introducing the spell debuff system. This is something new to the Secrets of Gloomrot update. Each School of Magic has a unique debuff associated with its spells. In the case of Storm, that debuff is called Static. When applied, Static electrifies an enemy for 5 seconds, causing physical damage dealt to them to trigger a shock, dealing 10% magical damage. Debuffs play a significant role in understanding how physical and magical damage work together in harmony, and as you'll see with the rest of the Storm spells, it's woven into every facet of this school of magic. The first Storm ability is called Cyclone. This can be unlocked by defeating the V-Blood unit, Grethel the Glassblower, who's located in the northwest section of Dunley Farmlands at the Quartz Quarry, a new location in the Secrets of Gloomrot update. When cast, players conjure a Cyclone that pierces enemies, dealing 90% magic damage and inflicting static. The Cyclone returns once it reaches max distance, circling back towards you and lingering for up to 10 seconds, hitting any enemy it passes through. Now, I dabbled with this spell for quite a bit, and while it doesn't have the overwhelming firepower you'd expect of some other abilities in the game, I did find it valuable in certain situations. Really, what helps it stand apart is that pierce damage, which allows it to move through enemies while also dealing damage. If you're in a multi-target situation and you're decent with skill shot abilities, Cyclone has the potential to deal significant damage to groups of enemies. Also, keep in mind the spell curves back towards the player, but will dissipate if it impacts something like a wall. The next Storm ability is called Polarity Shift. This can be unlocked by defeating Domina, the Blade Dancer. She's found in Gloomrot South in the small area known as Rustblock Village. When cast, players launch a projectile that deals 90% magic damage and inflicts static. Additionally, you and the other target swap locations on impact. If the target is immune to the effect, you instead teleport to the location of the target. This is a rather quirky spell that has elements of both damage and utility. What's tricky about it is the actual location swapping. Due to the nature of V-Rising's combat, I can't think of many times where swapping places with anything, whether that be friend or foe, would be valuable. Usually, if I need to reposition, it's because I'm trying to escape something, like a big attack, and in this case, swapping in an ally only to take that blow for me isn't a great use case. With the implementation of the spell jewel system, there might be opportunities to augment the spell enough to be impactful, but ultimately, I think Polarity Shift is more niche than anything else. If we flip our mindset, however, and think of this from a PvP perspective, a skill shot that puts your enemy behind you or near a teammate so they can collapse from multiple positions is super valuable. It's a much needed team fight initiator because you can swap, then dash back to your target, or your teammate could be ready with a spear flurry, and as soon as you swap, the enemy eats a ton of damage. I think in a PvP specific setting, this skill could be very good. The third Storm ability is Discharge. This is unlocked by defeating Henry Blackbrew the Doctor. He can be found in the Transcendum Laboratories, which is part of Gloomrot North. When cast, players will block melee and projectile attacks for up to 1.5 seconds. When an attack is blocked, they'll turn immaterial and travel to the cursor location. Passing through an enemy deals 50% magic damage, inflicts static, and launches the target into the air for 3 seconds. Much like some of the other defensive abilities in V-Rising, Discharge allows players to briefly block incoming physical attacks and counter with some offense. In the case of Discharge, this is really more of a PvP move than anything else. The ability to reposition and stun enemies for 3 seconds is huge in a team fight and provides flexibility that works great in that environment. Now on the PvE front, I've never been hot on these types of spells, mainly because they're reactive, not proactive, and when I'm progressing, I want to be the one setting the tempo of an encounter. Now with that in mind, there is something to be said about using Discharge as a means to lift multiple enemies up, buying you time to escape. It is an interesting move, it really just depends on what aspect of the game we're talking about in the situation you find yourself in. The next storm ability is called Ball Lightning. This can be unlocked by defeating Ziva the Engineer. She's found in the Transcenda Machine Factory in Gloomrot South. When cast, the player launches a ball of lightning that lingers in place, periodically shocking a nearby enemy and inflicting static. This deals up to 180% magic damage per target over 3 seconds. Ball Lightning's total damage cannot exceed 450% magic damage. After the duration, the ball explodes, dealing 50% magic damage to enemies in the area. If you're a more offensive-minded player, then Ball Lightning might just be the ability you've been waiting for. In fact, throughout most of my progression in the Secrets of Gloomrot update, I used this spell as it provided a few important things that I needed in my kit. First, it's got decent AoE, which means you can deal damage to multiple enemies with ease. Second, it's an easy way to apply static to multiple enemies. In conjunction with something like the Reaper weapon, it's a solid 1-2 punch that helped ease the stress of constantly dealing with hordes of enemies. Now on the PvP front, I think this spell will be less effective, mainly because players can easily get out of the area of effect. However, during a castle siege where players are confined to rooms and hallways, it might be a bigger difference maker. Next up, we have Lightning Curtain. This can be unlocked by defeating Voltatia, the Power Master, found at the Transcendum Power Plant in Gloomrot South. When cast, players summon a curtain of lightning that blocks projectiles for up to 3 seconds. Enemies that pass through the effect are inflicted with static and periodically take 25% magic damage. Allies that pass through the effect receive a fading haste buff, increasing movement speed by 40% for 3 seconds. If nothing else, this ability is very interesting and one of the more unique spells in the game. With aspects of offense, defense, and utility, it's one of those spells that checks off all 3 boxes. Where Lightning Curtain will really excel is in PvP. It can be used to wall off an area, giving an ally a temporary moment to pop a potion in relative safety. The movement speed can also play a factor in engaging an enemy or fleeing a fight. Now on the PvE front, it's not as interesting, mainly because AI enemies have a much more predictable movement pattern. Sure, you could kite them through the effect, and there's something to be said about the utility on boss fights, but in most PvE scenarios, there are other spells that can make a bigger impact. The dash spell for this school of magic is called Veil of Storm. It can be unlocked by defeating Meredith the Bright Archer. You might remember this boss from before the update. She's found in the Dunley farmlands inside the Haunted Iron Mine. When cast, the player will dash towards the chosen direction and elude nearby enemies for 2.2 seconds. The player gains a 20% attack speed buff for 4 seconds. The next primary attack will also deal 25% bonus damage and inflict static. Dashing through an enemy also inflicts static. Simply put, this is one of the best offensive dashes in the game. It perfectly augments a physical kit in both PvE and PvP. The attack speed, in addition to the damage buff against static affected enemies, adds up quick, especially when using something like axes, which further buffs attack speed. Overall, this is a fantastic addition to the game, and a spell I think a lot of players will be using. Moving into the Storm ultimate abilities, first up we have Raging Tempest. This can be unlocked by defeating Octavian, the militia captain. Octavian can be found in the Dunley farmlands in the back of the Bastion of Dunley. When cast, players dash forward and bounce between nearby enemies, striking them for a total of 525% magic damage, split across targets within the area over 3 seconds. Additionally, players strike all enemies in the area up to 4 times, dealing 40% magic damage and inflicting static. At the end of the attack, players will dash towards their aim direction, completing the spell cast. This spell can be stopped early by attacking. On paper, this spell sounds pretty amazing. As long as you land that first dash, you can sit back and enjoy a bit of auto-attacking. But the truth is, the spell damage just isn't that great, especially in a multi-target situation. Believe it or not, the spell itself is actually more effective against just a few targets, mainly because you're not splitting damage more than a couple of ways. In that scenario, you'll notice the impact of the spell, but in large group encounters, this is actually one of the less effective AoE spells in V Rising. It's fun to try out a time or two, but there are much better offensive options out there. The final Storm ability is the ultimate Eye of the Storm. This is unlocked by defeating one of the final bosses in the game, Adam the Firstborn. You can find him in Gloomrot North at Dr. Blackbrew's castle. When cast, players knock back nearby enemies and begin conjuring a thunderstorm. For 5 seconds, lightning bolts strike down in the surrounding area, dealing 100% magic damage and inflicting static. Lightning strikes the area 37 times in total over the duration of the spell. Talk about a fun ability, Eye of the Storm is about as flashy as it gets. When cast, the screen is completely taken over by dozens of lightning strikes, and it's quite the sight to behold. While there is an element of randomness to this spell, I personally think it's fun to use, especially against large groups of enemies. I can even see it being a really impactful spell in PvP situations. The lightning strikes come down hard and fast, and that means dodging them is nearly impossible. My only real gripe with the spell is that the visual is so overwhelming, it's hard to see anything else going on, and that often means running into an enemy's attack by mistake. Still, I enjoy the heck out of this spell, and I think you will too. So there you have it, the brand new Storm spell tree introduced in the Rising Secrets of Gloomrot update. Let us know what you think of all the new spells. Leave us a comment down below and share which of the new abilities you're most excited to check out. Don't forget, we'll have more Rising videos coming your way soon, so if you enjoy our content and you want more videos like this in your feed, do me a solid, hit that thumbs up, and consider subscribing. I also want to invite you to join the Legacy Gaming community on Discord. If you're looking for a place to hang out, party up for Rising, talk about great games, and win free prizes, check out the link in the description below. My name is Codiak, and from everyone here at Legacy Gaming, thanks for watching, and play on.